He almost never makes lists. He dodges boxes, shrugs off labels, and lets the songs do the talking. But if you follow the crumbs, the covers he can't stop playing, the mentors he keeps calling, and the collabs that broke the internet, you end up in the same place every time. 5 voices he returns to when he needs a compass. Some are obvious. One is the reason his choruses detonate. One explains the rasp you hear on the 3rd line of a heartbreak verse. And one proves the guy who headlines the biggest country shows in America never lived inside a single genre. Let's pull the curtain back. Tonight, Morgan Wallen finally names the 5 singers he keeps going back to, and why each one unlocks a piece of his sound. Okay, let's start with the easiest answer. When Morgan talks about the artist who lit the fuse, he points to a writer who made truth feel like gasoline. Eric Church isn't just an influence. He's the person Morgan calls when the world turns sideways and the studio lights won't turn off. Church's songs taught him that a line lands harder when it sounds like a confession, that you can be stubborn and tender in the same verse, that melodies can swagger without ever losing the ache. It's not an accident they keep finding each other on records. It's not brand synergy, it's chemistry. Church gives you the stubborn spine, no oversinging, no wasted words, just a riff and a reason. Morgan studied that. You can hear it in the way he leans back on a chorus, the way he lets a hook breathe before he drops the hammer. Church is the chapstick on cracked truth. It still stings, but now you can sing through it. But that wasn't the whole story. Morgan Wallen didn't just learn country, he went straight to the well. Keith Whitley is the tone Morgan chases when the lights go out and the song has to stand on its own. He wrote a song just to say the name, and he built another track off a classic Whitley melody because sometimes tribute is the most honest kind of theft. Whitley taught him that restraint is a power move. When the lyric hurts, you don't scream, you let the pain speak. That's why Morgan's quieter songs hit like a late call you weren't ready to answer. He tucks the ache behind a steady breath. He drops the syllable a half step late. He lets the room go still. It's pure Whitley. No drama, all damage. When you feel that slow burn sincerity in his ballads, you're hearing a ghost in the wires, and the name on the nameplate is Keith. And then a curveball, Lil Wayne. This is where the internet pretends to be shocked. Morgan grew up on rap cadences and hook science, and Lil Wayne was the professor. Wayne taught him the thing country radio can't explain but stadiums feel in their bones. The pocket, not just staying on beat, living between beats. Wayne rides behind the snare by a breath, then snaps forward on a consonant so a single syllable lands like a drum fill. Morgan lifted that move and bent it for melody. He'll start a line a hair late, clip a vowel into a syncopation, then slam the rhyme right on the downbeat. That push-pull is why his choruses feel like motion before the band even hits. Wayne also turned syllables into percussion. Ad-libs become ghost drums, internal rhymes become hi-hat patterns. Morgan uses the same math without ever calling it rap. Listen to how he stacks near rhymes inside a bar, then leaves a micropause like an empty seat at the table. That silence is part of the rhythm. It makes the next word crack louder. Then there's hook science. Wayne's best records don't beg you to sing, they dare you not to. Simple phrase, sticky contour, one twist of attitude. Morgan keeps that blueprint. He'll pick 5 or 6 unfancy words, ride them on a contour you could hum with your truck window down, and lace one line with bite. No maze, no vocal gymnastics for their own sake. A chorus you can chant over an 808 or a steel line and never lose the thread. But if hip-hop carved the pocket, something else sharpened the hooks. Next up on our list we have Post Malone. Some singers stack harmonies. Post Malone stacks feelings. He floats a melody until it lodges in your head, and then he turns it a degree darker so you can't shake it. Morgan heard that and realized he could carry stadium choruses without flattening the edges. The two cut songs together, swapped ideas, and proved that a bruised melody doesn't need permission slips from genre police. Post isn't country. He isn't only pop. He's the sound of lonely sung loud enough for a crowd to chant. You can hear that blueprint in Morgan's cleanest hooks, the ones that sound like they were born in a truck and finished in an arena. They climb without clutter. They pour sugar on the gravel and somehow make both taste better. That's the Malone effect. Melody as memory. Still, there's one piece left, the grit. Where does the rasp get its teeth? And finally on our list, we have Breaking Benjamin. Morgan Wallen's rasp didn't just show up one day. It came from long teenage hours spent with rock blaring through cheap headphones. Breaking Benjamin taught him how to square his shoulders into a note and hold the line until it shakes. That's why he doesn't flinch at power choruses. That's why even on a ballad, he can snarl just enough to keep the shine from getting slick. It isn't about copying a band, it's about what your throat learns when you sing along 1,000 times before you figured out who you are. Rock gave him the grit that country alone wouldn't. It taught him to drop his vowels like anchors, to lean into the splinters until the word cuts clean. That rock-ribbed push is the difference between a radio hook and a stadium scream. Line up those 5 pieces and the picture snaps into focus. So let's build Morgan Wallen from these 5 voices, take Church's spine and Whitley's tone, add Wayne's pocket and Post's melody math, finish with a rock rasp that keeps the whole thing from going polite. Now you get why his songs travel, you get why a back row hears the hook first and the heartbreak second, you get why a verse can drag its boots and still feel light on its feet. None of this is a trick, it's a recipe. The reason he wins the streaming wars and the parking lot sing-alongs is the same. He keeps the chorus simple, but he never makes it small. He pulls in the world he actually lived, small town mornings, big city radios, and he tapes the edges together with a voice that can whisper or roar. You can hate the blend, you can call it pop, you can call it country with a side of everything else. The market made its call, the crowd's holding up the phone lights and singing the third harmony by instinct. But if he loves these 5 so much, why doesn't he list them more often? Well, mystery isn't an accident, it's strategy. The minute he pins 5 names to the wall, every new song gets graded against that list instead of heard on its own pulse. Headlines do what headlines do, reduce, compare, misquote, and suddenly the conversation is about whether track 3 sounds enough like one influence instead of whether the lyric cuts. He keeps the air around the songs clear so the hook arrives without a chaperone. Lists also build cages. Say the names and you inherit expectations. Write this kind of chorus, sing that kind of vowel, never color outside these lines. He wants the right to pivot. One single leaning classic, the next leaning pop, the third with a cadence sharp enough to rattle glass, without someone yelling he abandoned the blueprint he never promised. Silence buys freedom. There's audience math in play. His crowd is a Venn diagram. Bar band country diehards, crossover pop kids, hip-hop heads who love a pocket, rock fans who want grit. Name only country heroes and one slice feels unseen. Name only cross-genre picks and another slice calls foul. Keep it implicit and every listener hears their reflection. That's not hiding, that's hospitality. Then there's the credit economy. If you list 5, why not 6? Why not the writer who taught you pre-chorus tension, the producer who fixed your vowels, the band that gave you permission to push the gain? Naming a few can feel like slighting the rest. Easier to tip your hat with choices, not captions. Cover a classic on tour. Interpolate a melody in the bridge. Invite a guest when it fits. The message lands without the politics. Business matters too. Radio and playlists like clean categories. The more loudly you declare your cross-genre DNA, the more gatekeepers try to file you under the wrong tab. By keeping his influences unspoken, he stays format flexible. Country enough for the farm party, hook heavy enough for the gym playlist, pocket smart enough for a remix if the moment's right. No labels on the jar means more shelves to sit on. Art-wise, he's borrowing tools, not costumes. Church gave him priorities. Whitley gave him patience. Wayne gave him movement. Post gave him lift. Rock gave him voltage. Once you understand that, you stop asking, who does this sound like, and start hearing how it works. He's protecting that conversation. Make the mechanics visible. Keep the idols private. And yes, mystery sells. Speculation fuels comments. Comments feed the algorithm. The algorithm rewards the song. He withholds the final answer so the conversation keeps working for him. It's not coy, it's craft. So he rarely says the names, he shows them in phrasing, in pocket, in restraint, in the way a chorus opens its arms right when you need it to. That's the flex. You don't have to claim your teachers when the work makes the introductions for you. So here's the list you came for. Eric Church, Keith Whitley, Lil Wayne, Post Malone, and the rock edge that came from screaming along to bands when nobody was listening. 5 voices, one direction. It explains the stubborn honesty, the classic ache, the rhythmic snap, the earworm chorus, the gravel that keeps the pretty parts from getting too shiny. It also explains why the next record could go left or right and still sound like him. If you wanted tidy boundaries, You probably picked the wrong singer to obsess over. If you wanted songs that feel like a Friday that got out of hand and somehow fixed your week, you're in the right place. So now it's your turn. Did he nail the 5? Who would you swap in? Isbell, Stapleton, Dunn? Drop your pick and the song that proves it. And if you think the blend shouldn't work, tell me the track that changed your mind. Because the 5 names aren't the headline. The headline is the chorus you can't stop humming on the ride home.